Hello, guys, and welcome back to Entertainment Roundup. I'm J77. I'm giving you some of the latest news that's going on in the entertainment world. A little bit of light, but we might as well talk about the stuff that pretty much made the headways, that caught my attention, that caught my interest, and I want to talk about it. First things first, I want to get this out the way very quick. I made a standalone video, but I decided to actually put it on this format because it's very short, very simple. It's involved Jontron. Yes, he had made a response video. It came out no less than probably a few days after all the stuff is blown up, all the negative press, which I didn't bother to read. Because frankly, I heard what he said with my own ears and gave my own feelings on it on the entertainment roundup previous episode. I did the expansion episode, so you guys want to check that out. I feel my feelings fine, but he did make some response. It's not much of an apology, more so than anything else. But he did admit that he didn't really came prepared. Destiny was more prepared in his format than Jontron was, and pretty much it was only to pretty much those who have the IP address. He made it pretty much unlisted, which surprisingly I think that was a weird move on his part. Pretty much anyone who's a fan of his, or even those who are YouTubers, pretty much know the situation. So just having it where only a certain people on Twitter who follows him on Twitter can see it is a very weird move on his part. It makes me wonder if he only wants certain people to look at it and not everyone. The reaction to what he said is pretty much mixed, as you expect, mostly on the negative side. But hey, look, when it comes to politics, when it comes to a situation like that, you gotta be you can't be too surprised about it. Like I said, this is something that I feel when it comes to a topic like that, we need to have a discussion where you agree or disagree. We need to know where people's thinking is, and that way we can actually find that middle ground. We're nowhere close to the middle ground when it comes to race relations in this country, when it comes to discrimination in this country. There's a whole lot of stuff that what we need to really confront, iron out, and fix, and that's something that we're not doing. We like to play the blame game a lot, but when it comes to our own mess, we seem to want to either push it back or try to hit it, pretending that it never happened or never exists. And again, I applaud Jontron and Destiny for having that type of podcast. It didn't go the way I believe that Jontron was hoping, but at least I respect him enough for him having the opinion that he has. At least it gives me an idea of what he feels as well as what Destiny feels. And I feel that, he made his video a response video. You kind of expect he was making a response video, and we'll just move on from there. Again, I'm not hating on the guy. I'm not done describing to the guy. But it is something that I think that, if anything else, it makes you be aware of what people's mindset is, and why it's very important that we separate facts from fiction. And that's something that I think a lot of stuff is. Too many fictional stories are out there, too many fictional statistics out there, and we really got to filter out some of the stuff here, and narrow down the stereotypes that follows with it. So with that being said, he did make a response video. I don't know if it's still on Twitter or not, but what I understand is he did made it. I seen it myself. The only feedback I got is I kind of find it strange that he put it unlisted, but that's just my opinion on that. So that's all I have to say on that situation. Let's move on to some entertainment stuff that you guys really want to hear. I'm gonna start with Terminator, and the reason why I'm starting with Terminator is because it's been a lot of is on again, off again stuff has happened, and this has to do with the last film, Terminator Genesis. Now, I've seen the movie. I've talked about the movie a little bit. I thought the movie was disappointing for a lot of reasons, mostly because it just was a retread of something I've seen already. It didn't really give me any kind of feeling towards this film is actually moving forward but moving backwards, and this was one of the major things. Genesis, to me, while wasn't my worst film, it definitely wasn't my best film, and I just felt it was just not a film that I think that it should have been done in to begin with. I thought they could have just moved forward, stay with the T Wars. Instead, they did opposite. Sundance had announced in September that Genesis will be intended to be a standalone trilogy. It was supposed to be two of the films brought into this. However, on October 15th, it was also announced that the Terminator sequel was put on hold because of the fifth film. Now, the fifth film did not do anything spectacular, and let's be honest, it was underperforming. Many people who saw the reviews and even word of mouth wasn't very good, and that led to the film being on hold. A few months later, this year, actually, let's clarify this, and I'll get to the few months later. This year, around January, it was announced that the producers was on path of rebooting the series again, giving a new, fresh idea, a new feel to the story. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, who said from the very beginning he was on board whenever they decided to do another Terminator film. I have no problem with that. However, it was reported recently that Paramount said they were done with the film. They are done with the franchise. They don't want really nothing more to do about it, and that's led to a question of whether the franchise is going to continue onward. There was also some talks about some stuff on March 17th of this year. David Ensign, the CEO of Skydance, stated that the future of the franchise has been figured out and that an announcement of those plans will be coming soon. Now, this is after Paramount said they're done. Now, there has been certain reports stating that they're hoping to do another TV series. I know, Josh, again, if you're listening to this, that's what they want to do. They want to do a new television TV series. Ashley Miller and Zach Brennan has worked together on the previous Terminator series, which was canceled prematurely. The Sarah Chronicles were named as writers and executive producers. The series will be depicted in the franchise history of the critical moments in 1984 Terminator, and it also indicates the continuity of the Project film series reboot. So they're looking to link this TV show to the movies, to the new movies that they want to do when they reboot it. Now, my thing about this is this: I don't feel they need to reboot Terminator. I feel like if you want to, tell the story of Terminator, just stay with the future. I think I was more interested of seeing this war that led to John Connor bringing Kyle Reese as well as the other Terminators into 1984. I felt they should have just done that. They should just work on that, give us an idea of how this war was, and also make it pretty much grittier. I think one of the things that's Terminator Salvation or Redemption in some regions with Christian Bale, it didn't have that feel Terminator. It just felt like this was another, pretty much B-rated popcorn film with no grit and no urgency. It wasn't really until the very end where you wasn't too sure if John Connor was actually going to survive this series. In fact, there was recent rumors that John Connor did die, and the character who was also a Terminator was supposed to take over him as his lookalike, which would have been an interesting twist. It would definitely throw everybody on a loop. But to me, there was just so many stuff they did wrong with that film that it just pretty much didn't balance out right correctly. A lot of fans and a lot of critics have bashed the film for that reason. And to me, I think that scared Paramount a little bit to go back and retread some things that we haven't seen, and as a result, we had pretty much mixed and negative reviews. Again, this is still in the early stage. We don't know what's going to happen. I do know if Paramount doesn't want to pursue the Terminator franchise and they want to go a different direction, this will pretty much mark, I think, the fourth time that a different studio have taken over on this franchise. Keep in mind, Paramount was not the original production the original studio that had the rights to the Terminator. I believe Orion Pictures had the rights at one point. Then TriStar with Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the best Terminator of the series. Then Paramount came along, I believe, right after that, along with some other studios that came along. So this franchise has been bounced around from studio to studio. I find it interesting. This is the only franchise that actually have done that. The only other two franchises have actually had different studios doing stuff. Of course, you had the Child's Play. People didn't realize Child's Play was never once a Universal Studio original. It was actually United Artists. United Artists didn't want to do a Child's Play 2, but Universal did, and he did the rest of that. You also have the Friday the 13th series from 1 to 8. Friday the 13th belonged to Paramount. Paramount didn't want to do it anymore, sold the rights to New Line Cinema, with the exception that it couldn't use Friday the 13th as the name. Thus, you have the Jason trilogy, Jason X, Jason in Space, and of course Freddy versus Jason, which is more on Jason's side than Fred Krueger's side. It's also one of the reasons why when they did the reboot, you have both New Line Cinema and of course Paramount working together because Paramount had the name to the original series. So it's one of those rare occasions that this is the franchise that went through that as well. So I am curious if they got to look for a new studio to produce it. Hey, you already heard that James Bond may be getting a new studio partner as well. So this would not be surprised if they do the same with this. So one good thing about it is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, I always like to see him as Terminator. He's always entertaining in that. The question is what else they're gonna do. It's already been stated already by numerous reports that Emily Clark is not going to play the role of Sarah Connor. She's done with the series, so it really does bring a question of what the series is, where the series is going to be taken moving forward from there. If they do a TV series, honestly, I think they did a good job with the TV series beforehand. I think they canceled it way too soon. I know Johnson is not happy about that when it happened, but it is something that is definitely in the works. So Josh, if you listen to this, don't give up hope. You may get your Terminator TV series yet. Moving on as well, in case you haven't heard, Senator Cory Booker and Minnie Coolidge have something going on. This is something you normally would see out of Us Magazine or People's Magazines, but it has actually made the headway in major news. In the headline, Minnie Cullen says yes to a dinner date with Senator Cory Booker after dissing Newark. This is what romance looked like in the 21st century, and we're all for it. This article being written by Stephanie Marcus, a well-known columnist from the Huffington Post. You guys can check her out, her stuff there. This romance looked like out of the 21st century, and we all love it. It begins with a diss in Hulu, The Mindy Project. I think it's the original series, and ended with Mindy Cullen agreeing to go on a date with New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. On Tuesday's episode that was passed, Cullen character Dr. Mindy Lauren joked that she couldn't believe Booker showed up to her party. Cory Booker, I can't believe he came. I guess anything to get out of Newark, huh? Anything to get out of Newark. And that was actually a jab on Newark. And Newark has always been a set of jabs and even controversy because New York, for a while, has not been known as the most safest city in the United States, let alone within the tri-state area. Nevertheless, it's gotten better. It has been improved. It's actually have become more of the place to go and hang out with, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. I have worked between the border of Newark and Jersey City for 2.5 years, working in the warehouse there. So it's not as terrible as it used to be. It really made a huge comeback. Doesn't stop Hollywood from taking jabs. There was a reality police series that a lot of officials in Newark took offense in because they made Newark be a crime-ridden area, which is of course not true, and the senators made it be known. They of course removed that part, dangerous city in the world. I forgot the name of the reality show. It didn't last too long, so keep that in mind. But that was one of the biggest problems there. That was one of the biggest issue there, and that was one of the biggest things there. So when people take a diss of Newark, they always think of, when people think of Newark, they always seem to think of high rate in crime and poverty and everything else, and that's simply not true. The same thing with Detroit, even the same thing with Los Angeles, and the same thing with Chicago. They all got their problems, of course, but it's not as severe as many people would like it to be. On a situation here, Cory Booker, by the way, he handled it pretty well. He didn't go nuts on this. He didn't go out there and blast the show like some people would normally have. They said on Thursday, Cory Booker tweeted to Colin that if he heard of Mindy Project's character have dissed Newark and and posted a link on the Vogue article on why it's worth visiting. And Senator made sure to keep a tweet lighthearted and was quite flirty with his use of what he was saying. Not to mention the fact he added, "I still love you" on the thing. Uh, she responded back, and that led to him asking for dinner, which she accepted, and even going far as people even gave him the train schedule to meet up with this. Now, how far this is going to go, who knows? But it is something of a fun gesture. They turned something that could have been a political scandal into something more tongue-in-cheek, and that's actually a good thing. Last thing you need is having Congress blow up on something else. They both handled it well. They both had fun with it. And who knows, it could lead to something more romantic that the gossip papers can actually write about in the near future. But that's actually a good thing. It's not bad. And it really, to me, this is actually some of the good things you want to hear, especially from two people there. Again, it made the news, it made headlines, and it made headlines not in a bad way. And I applaud Cory Booker for not being so upset about it. And I even tipped the actress for also having fun with it and having and tweeting back and forth in a friendly manner. So, good job from both sides on that. Again, you can see the article on HuffPost. There's also a Twitter feed. I think they still have that there, so you can actually look at the conversation itself. But again, very interesting. And Jones had a plane scare. In case you guys haven't heard, and I heard the audio. Harrison Ford called himself a schmuck after the latest plane incident. The actor also said he was distracted in the audio recording with air traffic control. Harrison Ford is heard calling himself a schmuck in the audio recording released on Friday. This is also, by the way, guys, brought to you by Ruckus, of his exchange with the traffic control following a February incident in which the actors landed his private plane on a taxiway instead of the runway. Yeah, it is a Husky 8-9er hotel uniform, Ford is heard saying on the recording using a phonetic pronunciation of an aviator call sign. "I am a schmuck that landed on the taxiway." Excuse me. The star of Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark then goes on this plane. He landed in the wrong place because he was distracted by two jets. The audio tape released by the Federal Aviation Administration, also known as the FAA, the air traffic controller asked for name and pilot license, ensuring the film star that the mishap was no big deal. That is a big deal. Well, it's a big deal for me. Hold on. Ford responded, adding that he is looking for in his backpack, apparently for his pilot license. At that point, the audio cut off. In February 13th, the incident, Ford flew a single-engine Avert Husky over an American Airlines Boeing 737 jet in Santa Ana, California, before landing on a taxiway that ran parallel to the runway. The taxiway are paths along which the aircraft can taxi when moving to or from the runway where planes take off and land. This is something that he has been prone to going through these days. On February 5th of 2015, Ford crashed his rented plane into Los Angeles area golf course, suffering serious injuries. It seems like Harrison Ford has it's like the launch pad at Big Quack of airplanes. That's the best way I can say it. Look, I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad he's still kicking, still alive and well. But these distractions you got to be concerned about, and that's the thing about it. You gotta keep, when it comes to planes, you got a lot going against you. Even though you may think it's not, you got a lot going against it. First of all, the weather. You got bird strikes, of course. That's always been a problem with big planes and small planes. but most of all, you can't really get distracted by the sound of someone else speaking on the radio. You always want to keep your focus eyes on and ears focused, and this is a prime example. So yeah, he's not happy about it because that distraction could have killed him, along with a lot of other people, if that's possible. Now, again, that didn't happen. I'm glad he's okay. But one may ask yourself, if you're that easily distracted when it comes to airplanes, you might want to, stay grounded on the ground a little bit, just for namesake seeking. Just don't put yourself in a situation where you could actually hurt yourself as well as others. All right. I mentioned this briefly in What's News. I might as well mention this here now. I did not see the games of the World Baseball Challenge. I think this WBC, that's what they call it. I know somebody's going to correct me on that. Congratulations to the U.S. baseball team. They beat Puerto Rico. A lot of people who saw the games thought it was a great competitive game. I really didn't really care too much about it. I actually didn't even know they was going to have a WBC. I was too busy focusing on what the Yankees are doing, getting stuff set up. I heard there were some things that the Yankees did not like. Because again, it falls on the same time as baseball, which is kind of weird. I understand why the Winter Olympics and why the hockey shuts down, because again, you got the professionals playing there, which I'm not a fan of, by the way. I feel that there are certain things you should have. This should be an amateur thing for the new talents. But then again, there's a lot of politics involved, a lot of other stuff involved. And people liked it, so be it. But I just feel they should be for the amateurs, not for the professionals. But that's a different discussion for a different day. I was kind of surprised that this happened. A lot of reasons. Reason is I didn't hear too much advertisement. There was nothing in New York that suggested there was something big going on like this. And it's kind of weird that they did it right at the beginning. Baseball just got started, yet we have this this ultimate World Cup game of baseball going on. Nevertheless, it happened. U.S. won their first one. They beat Puerto Rico, and congratulations for both players for making it that far. However, that's not the reason why I'm actually talking about it. I'm actually was hearing some audio feed from WFAN. Mike Francesa had mentioned something that caught my attention very, very quickly. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't even bring it up in Entertainment Roundup. I just did a separate video on this. And that was his feeling on Puerto Rico and U.S. A caller called about Puerto Rico and said that the country, there's people representing the country and they're doing good. And Mike Francesa took about of saying that. He said they're not a country, they're part of the U.S. And this led to more than 4 callers talking about this scenario. Some agreeing with him, some disagree with him. But I think the thing about it is that he pretty much was very persistent. He didn't bash the World Cup. He didn't bash the championship baseball series. He was happy they had it. He was happy that they went along with it. That was not his issue. His issue was Puerto Rico being treated as if they were a separate country from the U.S. And he was saying that they're not a separate country from the U.S. They're part of the United States. Yes, they are, but in a way that is different from what we attend as part of the United States. And let me explain this. When you think about the United States of America, the U.S., you think about the 50 states that joined the Union. That's including Hawaii. That's including Alaska. Those make up state number 49 and number 50. They were the last two to date that we have admitted to the Union. With that being said, Puerto Rico, the Philippine Islands, I think Guam is also one of them. They're not part of the Union. They're not. They're territories. These territories, their rules are different from the 50 states. Yeah, you can travel freely to these areas. The American West Indies and Puerto Rico, you can travel freely. You don't have to have. You're not pretty much. Those who are living in Puerto Rico are not deemed as immigrants. They can come here without any passports whatsoever and even live here without any passports. However, the rules are different. The culture is different. And while, yes, they are part of the United States as a territory of the United States, a lot of people, including those who are native New Yorkers, my sister included, look at Puerto Rico as their own little country with their own rules and their own legislation. Um, it is one of the major reasons why every so often you hear about should we put Puerto Rico as part of the United States, should be the 51st state. This has always been an issue coming up, and many people always debate whether or not they should. A lot of people don't want that because that will mean they have to pay taxes and everything else of land they have owned for generations, and they don't want to do that. Other people say they should because they give them more say in what goes on in government relations. This is also very important. Their representation, their representatives, while there are some in these territories, don't have much say on what goes on in day-to-day politics. They really don't. This is something that's been a big deal for years. Something that still becomes a big deal for years. When somebody says I'm from this part of the region in some area that only has like 800 or 900 people living there, they don't get the same amount of respect as say like New York, Rhode Island, because those are the part of the union. They are the part of the 50 that makes up the 50 states. So that's just pretty much always been a slippery slope. And I can understand Mike France's view that they are Americans, they are part Americans, but in many ways they're not the same as if they were probably exactly part of the 50 states, that they are part of the United States as if they were. Territories are very tricky. It's very hard to explain in many ways, but it is a big difference. It is a very huge difference. And so when those players play for them, even though I understand what Mike Francis was saying about how baseball is using this platform to try and promote their sport, nothing more, nothing less. And I agree with him 100%. I do believe some of those players feel they're representing a country. They're representing their homeland. And that's it. Yeah, even though they're Americans, part of them say, okay, I'm American, but I'm also Puerto Rican, and I'm also representing Puerto Rico, my country where I grew up, where I was born in. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with that. If you most people who came from Puerto Rico, they say that's their homeland. That's their home country. And I have no problem with that. I have no beef with that. But they also are they're also part of the United States. They're also part of the American family, just not in the way that you come to expect if they were actually have the same rules and umbrella if they were part of the union. That's the only difference here. They're not part of the union, and their representatives are different than those who were in the union. It's it is a very different system. A system which is still breeds in controversy and still up to debate whether or not that system serves the people who actually are living in those territories. But in any case, that's the whole thing that got to me. That argument has happened. That they was talking about that situation, pretty much more than the sport itself. Because again, as much as I'm happy that the U.S. win it, it ain't like there's a big celebration out on the streets. That's the whole thing. And I think if baseball is going to promote this platform, which has been around since again, and I mentioned this I believe I mentioned this West News, when they removed baseball from the Olympics. If Major League Baseball is going to promote something like this, it got to do a much better job. It got to make it like a real event. To me, this didn't feel like a major event. Not taking anything away from the players who play in this sport. Not taking away. There are countries that love this sport. Countries that have passion for the sport. The DR, the Dominican Republic. There are even places in Italy. You already know about the Latin players as well as the U.S. players. Canada. There are countries who love this sport. However, I got to keep it real. I didn't think this was greatly advertised, although they did a poor job of that. Because again, I heard about it on the radio. I just didn't think that it's like, oh, well, okay, well that's good. And that was it. I really didn't care much about it after that. I mean, they didn't make it a big thing on television. They really didn't. And I think this is the issue here. If Major League Baseball or baseball in general wants us fans of the sport to really get insights of the sport, one, they got to do a better job of advertising it. Two, they can't be in conflict with Major League Baseball. It really can't. They got to find some way to not make this be conflicted. Because again, I'm too busy looking at the Yankees roster and what they're going to be setting up for, rather than watching this world sport. I really didn't care. I know there were certain players that played there, but to me, it didn't click to me to watch this game. It really didn't. It didn't really register to me. And even some of the owners of baseball don't appreciate this sport because they risk getting injuries because they're playing for something more. But while they're in spring training, they're just getting warmed up, really getting ready to go. Getting their kinks together, getting the rust out. Here, they're playing for something more, and the injury is 10 times high. I believe the Yankees have lost one player already because of this sport. They're not happy about it. So they got to do a better job of doing promoting. Got to make sure it's not going to cause a hindrance with the players when they got to go back to their normal duties with their teams. And they just got to do a better job, period, of making me get wound up. Oh, is the U.S. going to have a parade? Because I didn't hear nothing on the news about it. And it's been what? How many days now since they won it? Keep in mind, I said this before, I said it again. The U.S. women's team had a parade in New York City. It was beautiful. It was a great gesture. Many people came out to celebrate, and I loved it. They deserved it. And you're gonna tell me, is the U.S. baseball team gonna do the same? Because I haven't heard nothing about it. I haven't heard not a single thing about it. That's the problem. You want me to get invested in something like this, you need to make it a world event. Say what you want about the hockey. And I'm not a big fan of professional sports players playing on the Olympics or in their own, because they have their own World Hockey Tournament as well. At least they try to get everybody involved. I was in it when I get in it when the United States faced Canada. I'm in it when that event happens. Same thing with the World Cup. As controversial as the World Cup is, it's a big event when everybody from all walks of life wearing different jerseys, uniforms, getting pumped up to see the country. Even those who have never been fans of soccer, and there's a lot of them out there who just watch soccer for the World Cup. There is a big event. There is a huge event. People watch the game. They put it on their television. Especially the last World Cup that came through, it was an event to watch, and that's something that I feel that the baseball has to do a much better of. You have to make it an event. You have to give people a reason to tune in and watch these games. Because I don't think too many people tune in and watch these games. And again, the sports shows, especially with Mike Francesa, they're covering it. It's their job to cover it. But it wasn't like it was like something of a big deal. It wasn't like something that they spend the entire day watching or listening. They're more concerned about the Yankees and Mets and Knicks and Rangers and Islanders. That's what the WFAN was more concerned about. The World Cup was almost an afterthought. And that's something I hope they fix, because again, I didn't really care. There were people who watched it. There were people who listened to it. They cared. But it was very few. And that's not a good thing. Especially since it's now been 4 days and I haven't heard about a parade yet. I find that kind of interesting and actually kind of sad, really. But that's my opinion. What's yours? I like to hear you guys. I like to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, this is J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.